2017. I'm Walter Johnson. And apologies in advance for the late start. Hangout. And then apologies for that, for this live start to this hangout Monday night. And this is the second edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast. And if you missed the previous edition, if you missed last week's edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast, and you can go to the Southwest Georgia Network Twitter feed at SWJ Network, and then under our description, you just click on the YouTube to the YouTube channel. Able to listen in live and listen in. And as I can see in front of me, and now the High School Football Roundup podcast. And now that gotten the technical difficulties on the way, and I'm online, I'm going to start talking some football action. Hard to believe this is the first full week of high school football action, Georgia, and especially here in the Metro Albany area. Hard to believe this is the first Thursday afternoon up in Macon, Georgia, on the campus of Mercer University Stadium or Anderson Field, or whatever they call the stadium up there. So in the Lee County Trojans will open the season at Mercer University's 5-star stadium as they take on the Bulldogs of Mary Persons High School out of Forsyth, Georgia. And Lee County finished 8-3 last season, won a first-round game, and then lost to Mays out of Atlanta in the second round of last year's state playoffs. And hard to believe Lee County number one for at least 1 week last season, but struggled in losses to eventual state champion Valdosta, as well as eventual state semifinalists Northside of Warner Robins. The Trojans have a player from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Otis Reese. A lot of major college programs are already looking at him and see if you're interested to see if any of those schools sign him, which would be 2018. And Lee County faces off against Mary Persons Tuesday afternoon from Macon, Georgia, at the campus of Mercer University. As always, head coach Dean Fabrizio is loaded with talent. Have Kermit Solomon, who's in the secondary for the Trojans, already committed to Mercer University. And highly ironic there that Otis Reese will either side with a Division I program with FBS or FCS. Some of those schools are already looking at Lee County's defense, but once again, Lee County, Mary Persons, Thursday afternoon, Thursday, August 17th at 5:15 p.m. And moving on, action really starts on which will be the following night, and the Westover Patriots traveling down U.S. Highway 19 to Pelham, Georgia, to face the Pelham Hornets. Finished 9-2 last season. Won the GHSA Region 1 Single A title. In the second round of last year. So the Hornets will be I'm very sure will be right in the playoff mix or the teams to beat in Pelham. I'm sure will be the team to beat in GHSA Region 1 Single A. Teams from Region 1 rankings and more on that and toward the end of the out or podcast. And Westover returns 27 seniors, and one of their key players, Patriots, will be running back Jonathan Mock. And Jonathan Mock will be one of the many keys to success for the in 2017. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And Westover was supposed to open the season against Albany High, but as many of you have probably heard by now, the Albany High is now officially closed and never to return. Result of the Sun and the Dougherty County Board of Education back on June 6th voted 4-3 to close Albany High, effective immediately. Effective at the end of this current school year, but effective immediately. So I mean that says a lot. And about the state of high school football, or at least on the public school side, Albany and Dougherty County. And Westover will face Pelham next week. So it'll be interesting to see which Octavia Jones has as he enters his 10th year as the head coach of the Patriots. And moving right along, in Ashburn, Georgia, and the Dougherty Trojans take on Turner County. County has a brand new head coach, and replacing Ben Simmons become the head coach season. And the Rebels went 8-3 last season, fell in the opening round of the playoffs. Fell in the opening round of the playoffs last year in single A public schools. So they managed to make the playoffs in Class AAA, despite struggling to a 2-7 record a year ago. Despite struggling to a 2-7 record a year ago, and one of those two wins came against Monroe. And one of those two wins came against Monroe, and I believe the other win came against Spencer. And Spencer out of Columbus, Georgia. And despite losing their other three region contests to Cook and Crisp County and Worth County, made the playoffs last year. Be interesting to see Dougherty squad. It'll be interesting to see how this Dougherty squad works out in 2017. How that team will fare in terms of wins and losses this year. It wouldn't surprise me to see Dougherty few more wins this year. Be serious contenders in GHSA Region 1 AAA. And you got the Thomas County Central Yellow Jackets. Extra to take on the Worth County Rams. And we're 7-5 last season and lost in the second round of the state playoffs. And as mentioned earlier, Worth County has a brand new head coach in Ben Simmons coming over from Turner County. And Simmons replaces Jason Tone, who resigned during the off season. And traditionally, Worth County's had that wing T offense. And the wing T offense is more of a running offense. I mean, it's more geared toward the ground game. Head coach and Ben Simmons, and the Rams will be more pass oriented, more balanced in terms of passing and running. And they'll face the Thomas County Central team that went 8-4 a year ago and won the GHSA Region 1 5A championship. And the Yellow Jackets also got to the second round. And then go past the second round anyways. Go past the second round of the state playoffs. And this will be a tune-up game for Worth County and hosting Thomas County Central. And that's gonna and that's going to be a interesting game. How about some other games of interest here in Southwest Georgia for first week for the first week of the season. County goes to Cook, and the Class AA Trojans out of Quitman, Georgia, making the short trip up to Adel to take on the Hornets in Class AAA. And so Brooks will face Monroe later this season, and Cook as well. So those two teams will maintain their little rivalry. And Cairo takes on Thomasville in Thomasville. Then you'll battle for the syrup pitcher. Cairo lost a lot of in last year's Region 1 4A championship game. Quarterfinals in 4A. And how about and Cougars to Vienna to take on Dooley County, and the Cougars have an interim head coach. He replaces. He resigned to take a position at FCS UT Chattanooga. And UT Chattanooga. And became the head coach at UT Chattanooga. And Harbor will inherit a lot of talent. A lot of talent at Crisp County, and going 13-1, losing to eventual state champion Cedar Grove, Atlanta area. You'll be interested to see how Crisp County fares, and Crisp County, even with the coaching change, unless they unless they struggle mightily. And we see, and the Fitzgerald Purple Hurricanes, also with a new head coach in Pruitt, the son of a former Fitzgerald head coach Robbie Pruitt, who is now at Classic State Coffee. And the Purple Hurricanes will hit the road to Hapeville, Georgia, just south of Atlanta, to take on Hapeville Charter. And the Purple Hurricanes are coming off back-to-back appearances in state title game. And Purple Hurricanes will be trying to adjust under a new head coach as well. Right along, and some other games of interest. Games of interest. You can go down. We go down the schedule. Side of Warner Robins at Warner Robins, and not quite the Wintersville Classic, but nonetheless. And in north side of Warner Robins, as I mentioned earlier, reached the semifinals in 6A, losing to Tucker, who lost to Valdosta championship game the following week, last December. And Warner Robins beat Mark last season and got sent packing in the first round. And another game closer to home has the Terrell County Green Waves playing host to Taylor County. We mentioned Westover taking on Pelham. And Kell Kickoff Classic. And the Packers went 8-5 last season. And they'll face Norcross, the Corky Kell Kickoff Classic. Classic was originally scheduled, played, and this is in Atlanta. It was originally played at the Atlanta Falcons' new stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but due to construction delays, the Atlanta portion of the Corky Kell Classic to Georgia State Stadium, former Turner Field, Georgia State University's new stadium. And went 8-5 last season after winning back-to-back state titles, and while winning 30 in a row, 30 straight games along the way. But in 8-5 last season, kind of a down year, and Corky County has a very tough schedule. And starting with Roswell and that tough non-region schedule, game against the number one in all of Virginia and Bishop Sullivan Catholic out of the Hampton Roads region. And the Packers will try to return to that form of 2014 and 2015. And let's just see, now we can go to the state rankings. Go to our state rankings and to the Georgia High School Football Daily Poll. In Class 7A with the defending state champion Rams from Grayson High School out of Grayson, Georgia, Gwinnett County, followed by Colquitt County at number 2, Roswell at number 3, Lowndes number 4. Off against defending state champion Valdosta in the Wearsville Classic on Friday night. We're in McEachern at number 5 and Brookwood at number 6, followed by Mill Creek, Parkview, Norcross, and Westlake. And I'm sure some people are wondering why Colquitt County 2 disappointing 8-5 last season, or at least consider maybe fans down there at Colquitt County consider 8-5, at least by that program standards, being ranked and obviously yeah, not against Roswell in the Corky Kell Classic up in Atlanta will really decide whether or not Colquitt is really deserving of that ranking. Towns coming at number 4. And the Vikings from just outside of Valdosta reached the semifinal round, reaching the quarterfinal round, and their season ended there. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Class 6A look like this. Number 1, 2, number 3, north side of Warner Robins 4, Lee County 5, and rounding out the top 10, 6 through 10, you got Dalton, Mays, Coffee, Glen Academy, and Alpharetta. 1-6A. I mean, obviously tough last year, tough again this year. And all 5 teams were ranked in the top 10 at some point last season. Valdosta, and despite winning their first state title last season, and the team they beat to win the all last year in 6A, Tucker, and head coach Alan Rodemaker is back for his second year. Helm, side of Warner Robins, like Middle Georgia's equivalent to Colquitt County. See that team discussion, we're battling for postseason positioning when region play rolls around late September, October. Interested to see what happens there in Lee County. We should be riding the mix, and as is Coffee. And Coffee, despite going the season, actually pulled off a couple of upsets on the road around, and their season ended to Dalton, whom Valdosta defeated in the semifinal round in 6A. He's really, really loaded this year. Some losing Jake Fromm, best quarterbacks. Their brother transferred to Warner Robins, and not to mention lost their head coach Bon Lassiter, who returned home to down in Cochran, Georgia, and in Houston County, despite the fact that they won for about weeks, maybe the first 5, 6, 7 weeks, give or take, in the and struggled to a 1-3 mark in Region 1 6A, and wound up missing the playoffs. And it'll be interesting to see how Houston County will fare under a new head coach. And no matter who the head coach is, or no matter who's coaching where, Region 1 6A is going to be very tough from top to bottom once again this season. Make no mistake about that. On the number 1, Buford. Number 2, Stockbridge. At number 3, 5, Cobb County. At number 6, and Kell. Corky Kell. And Kell legend as far as sports in Cobb County, Atlanta in general, kind of like Hugh Mills was back in the 30s and way back when. And Hugh Mills Stadium is named after Corky Kell. And out the got Thomas County Central. And Thomas County Central opening the season this Friday, August 18th at Worth County, ranked number 7 in the 7th in the state. And they're the only team in Region 1 5A 2016 season with a winning record, coming off a down season, 5-6. And this is after they finished 13-1 a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago. Lost to Cartersville. Ray Finals. In the moment, Thomas County Central and Bainbridge are to be the top 2 teams in Region 1 5A. Wouldn't surprise me if those 2 teams ended up doing battle for the region crown. Moving on to Class 4A. The defending state champion, is ranked number 1. Trinity is number 2. Sandy Creek 4. 5. Harris of Atlanta 7. Persons Trojans will face number 8. At number 9. And Ridgeland at number 10. And see, and Mary Persons finished 11-3 last season. Competed in Region 2 4A. And Mary Persons will be replacing a lot of talent and that helped them get to the Final Four in 4A last season. Cairo and Cairo lost simply a lot of players from last season as well. And Sir Bakers will be tested the Thomasville team that's up and coming under second-year head coach Jack Grage. And one in the rankings, coming in at number 1, a Greater Atlanta Christian. Calhoun number 3, 4, 5, Crisp County 6, Love of Atlanta at number 7, Liberty County 8, and Pace Academy 9, despite finishing 6-5 last season. And Dawson County coming in at number 10, despite finishing 7-3 on the playoffs. County has mentioned earlier in this broadcast, and has a new interim head coach in Brad Harbor Harbor with a B, spelled Harber. And the Cougars will, and it'll be interesting to see how this Cougars team will fare with a new head coach. And Harbor replaces Shelton Felton, who's now at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Perennial power out of the football championship subdivision of NCAA Division I, or FCS for short. In Class AA rankings, number 1, Hateville Charter. Fitzgerald number 3. Scriven County at number 4. Raven County at 5. Followed by Callaway, Pepperell, Jefferson County, and Rockmart. Fitzgerald. You see, Fitzgerald opens the season against Hateville Charter. And Hateville went 10-4 last season. And Fitzgerald 13-2. Benedictine out of Savannah finished 15-0 last season. And Fitzgerald comes in as the team to beat. The league that has one less team in GHSA Region 1AA in Brooks County. Brooks County, whose Trojans went from Quitman, Georgia, finished 8-4 last season as well. And there are only 5 teams in Region 1AA. 2 words or 3 words: Albany High School, and the loss of Albany and Albany High, the sudden closure of Albany High. 1AA. 5 teams in so with or without Albany, still with or without Albany High, it'd be it's still going to be very tough. In that region would be Fitzgerald or Brooks County, Thomasville, Early County. Doesn't make any difference in Class Single A private, since they're the Southwest Georgia Network coverage area in the region. Single A public in Clinch County, number 1. Macon County, Manchester, Emmanuel County Institute, Taylor County, Irwin County, Commerce, McIntosh County Academy, Turner County, and Lincoln County. 1 teams in the school poll. Single A is well represented. Clinch County. County 8-5, and they reached the round. Finished 8-5 and reached the championship game last 2 years. Turner County, number 9, despite the coaching change. Should be a competitive region, top to bottom. And 2017 will be the 2nd straight year. There are 24 teams in the playoffs. Private schools as well as public schools. And to wrap things up, Windsor Knights season at the GISA level with a 26-16 win. Sharpsburg up in Sharpsburg, Georgia, in East Coweta County. Deerfield Windsor's 1-0 with a win, and their home opener is this Friday against Miller County. For the Pirates but a regular season game for the Knights. County, of course, competes in GHSA Region 1 Single A, and beats in GSA Region 3 AAA. If Deerfield Windsor were in the GHSA, more than likely compete LA. And in the SICIS Challenge, the Terrell Academy Eagles defeated Trinity. That school is 14, and Terrell Academy is now 1-0. And the same goes for Westwood. Westwood was a 59-6 winner over First Presbyterian Christian out of Hinesville, Georgia. And on that note, that's going to end this edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast. And remember, you can follow on Twitter, Network, and you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And on the Twitter page. And remember our Twitter handle, Network. And saying good night, and thanks for listening.